Here today I am going to explain you what is virtualization. Basically, we should know before understanding virtualization what is virtual machine. So a virtual machine is a computer where you can run on a physical machine. So imagine you have a computer like this. Consider this is your physical hardware, a physical computer. On the top of physical machine, you can install operating system. On the top of operating system, we can install many more softwares like MS Office, like VLC, Chrome, whatever. But here some softwares, workstation, VirtualBox, Hyper-V, and many more. These softwares which allows to create many virtual machines in a single physical machine. So this is known as virtualization. So here what is a virtual machine? Virtual machine is a collection of configuration. It's a configuration file. It has a RAM, it has a processor, it has a hard disk, it has a virtual energy card, it has everything virtually. So in this virtual machine you can install operating system and you can run many more applications. So this concept is known as virtualization. So this virtualization in two types of virtualization. The one is hosted virtualization and bare metal. So in hosted virtualization, usually used for testing environment and training purposes. Bare metal virtualization used situation for production environment. So before entering into all this understanding, we will understand the real benefit of having virtual machines. So why do we have to have virtual machines? The first advantage of virtual machine is to reduces the cost. It reduces the cost. We need not to buy hardware machines to run operating system, and it reduces space, and it reduces power consumption. It reduces AC and power cooling, and there is no hardware maintenance. So because all comes under in virtual, so you need not to have to maintain any hardware. And it makes administration easy. So how it is means, if you have 200 virtual machines, you can manage 200 virtual machines by using single console. That single console will list all the virtual machines where you can create, manage and other resource of virtual machines. If we have 200 physical machines, it is very difficult to manage physical machines comparing with virtual machine, and it also more secure than physical machine. And we can take a backup and restore to virtual machines. If you have that facility where you can take backup of VMs, if any VM got corrupted or got attacked by virus, so you can restore that virtual machine. And it is also possible to take a snapshot of virtual machine. If you have a virtual machine, you take a status, read only status of virtual machine. If anything happens to that operating system or data corruption or virus attack, you can revert that snapshot to bring back that virtual machine state. Like, you can have many snapshots of a single virtual machine. So we have many more advantages while comparing with a physical machine. So virtual machines are the best. And also, virtual machines are a foundation for cloud computing. If you want to understand the cloud computing, you have to have a knowledge of virtual machine. Now we will understand what is hosted virtualization. And where we discussed here, the hosted virtualization will have a hardware computer and operating system, and on the top of operating system we install workstation, VirtualBox, Hyper-V. In that Hyper-V VirtualBox workstation, we run many more virtual machines. This type of virtualization called hosted virtualization. The hosted virtualization will allow us to run multiple VMs based on a software. But we have another type of virtualization called bare metal virtualization. How bare metal virtualization is, and we have a hardware called, it's a hardware. On the top of hardware we have some operating systems. That operating systems is known as ESXi, Zen server, Hyper-V core. So these are the operating systems. This operating system provided by VMware company. This operating system provided by Citrix. This operating system provided by Microsoft. All these are known as hypervisor. This hypervisor used to create multiple virtual machines in a single physical machine. If you check with the previous scenario, in this scenario we have virtual machines running on the software. In this scenario we have virtual machines running directly on the top of hypervisor. So we don't need to have any operating system installed in this computer to run virtual machine. So we don't want to have operating system. That software will become a OS. It is known as hypervisor. Most of the companies use ESXi Zen servers to run their virtual machines in production environment. This is known as bare metal virtualization. And it also gives many more facilities for live migration, common storage, and mounting storage to any other centralized. And this bare metal virtualization will give many facilities than the hosted virtualization. And there are few types of virtualizations, like server virtualization, desktop virtualization, network virtualization, storage virtualization, and application virtualization. So let us understand in detail what is each virtualization it is. If I come to server virtualization, the server virtualization tells us one physical machine. In that physical machine we run multiple virtual machines, and we run operating system with a server operating system in all virtual machines. This may consider as server virtualization. So we run operating system with a server. One server could be domain controller, that could be DNS server. The another server could be DHCP file server, and application server, database server. So many more servers are running as virtual machines in single hardware. This can be considered as server virtualization. So an administrator can use single physical machine to manage all virtual machines. So it is very easy for him to manage, and it is very cost effective for any organization. If I come to explain you what is desktop virtualization. For desktop virtualization means we have a hardware where hardware runs with many virtual machines, but all these virtual machines are running with client operating system. These virtual machines are purely running with client operating system. It could be Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows 8.1, Windows 10, or any other Linux based client OS like Ubuntu, Fedora, something. So what I'm trying to tell you is, if any user in the company wants to access a computer, he need not to have a desktop, CPU, monitor, anything. So by using his portable device, like it could be a tablet or it could be his mobile phone, by using the browser itself, he can access his virtual machine. So many companies started implementing called VDI, virtual desktop infrastructure. So what is virtual desktop infrastructure is, so all the customers or all the employees virtual machines will be run in a single hardware. It look like this. So there is a physical server. This physical server runs with multiple virtual machines. All the virtual machines are running with client operating system. The physical computer got connected to a switch. This switch may connect to other devices. Here we have one device called thin client. This is one device, thin client. That device will have some ports called VGA port, keyboard port, mouse port. Through the VGA port we can connect to monitor, we can connect to keyboard, and we can connect to mouse. This thin client has a LAN port where that LAN port can connect to a switch. It is a very special switch. That switch is known as PoE, power over Ethernet. So when user logs in here, when he got the display, he will type username and password. That virtual machine will be displayed for the user, and he start working in this virtual machine. But this is a virtual machine will be stored in the physical machine. Like many employees in the same company having thin client device, where all the thin client devices are connected to a switch, and all the virtual machines accessed by many employees in the same company. This concept is known as virtual desktop infrastructure. So advantage of this concept is, you have a single storage server where all the virtual machine stores, and all the users data will be present in the same physical machine, and it is very easy to take backup and restore, and organizations need not to spend to maintain their physical computers, CPUs, hardware, network connectivity. So this is a very good approach model for any company running with multiple employees with multiple common virtual machines. While comparing to physical machines, it is very cheaper then. So if we do like this is known as desktop virtualization. Now next, network virtualization. What is network virtualization? In any physical computer, for any if you have a physical computer, on the top of we have so many virtual machines with the help of software. So we need to we allow virtual machines to communicate to other virtual machines, and we also allow, so we want some type of communication called, we want to allow virtual machines to virtual machine communication, and we allow virtual machines to virtual machines and its physical machine, and some other type of communication where virtual machines can talk its own, and it can talk to physical machine, and it can talk to any other physical network, which means we have three types of connection. The one is only for virtual machine communication, the two is communication between virtual machines and its physical machine, and the three is virtual machine can talk to any. So based on this, we have to create a something called virtual switch. So every software will allow us to create a virtual switch, or sometime it is known as VNet. VNet or virtual switch, both are same. It allows to communicate virtual machines from other physical machines or same virtual machines to any other virtual machine. So if we are creating a virtual switch and making them available for communication, this is known as network virtualization. And when I came back to understand what we understood so far, we understood desktop virtualization, server virtualization, network virtualization. Here what is storage virtualization? So a storage virtualization is something called, we have a server and we can create multiple virtual hard disk in a single physical hard disk. So what I'm trying to tell you, there is a physical hard disk and we can create virtual hard disk. What is virtual hard disk? It is a file which allows to create partitions, which allows to install operating system and softwares. So virtual hard disk are files which allows to install softwares and operating system and data storage. So this file can be stored in any physical machine or any physical hardware. So imagine I have a single physical hard disk. That hard disk will have multiple virtual hard disk. All the virtual hard disk can be accessed by any other client computer within a LAN or outside the LAN. So for accessing virtual hard disk from remote location, which can be considered as storage virtualization. So we don't have any physical storage individually, we create virtual hard disk. These virtual hard disk can be accessed by remote client computers. To make this happen, there is a service called iSCSI. iSCSI is a service, or it may known as technology, which allows to access storage remotely over network. This could be known as storage virtualization. And finally we have something called application virtualization. What is application virtualization? You have a computer. In that computer you install many more applications. So all the users in the company all the users in in the company will come to client PC. They log in and they take this computer as remotely. So if you imagine you have a server 1 computer running with many more applications, and all this client 1, client 2, client 3, client 4, all the client computers, users will log in here and access this computer, server computer, remotely and start using application, is known as application virtualization. To work with application virtualization, we have to install remote desktop services in Windows Server operating system to make application usable for many clients. By default, Windows will not allow multiple users to take remote desktop, and we have to install a service called remote desktop services to allow multiple users to take remote desktop. To run this service, we have to get a license from Microsoft to which allows to access multiple remote connections. So we are understood network virtualization, server virtualization, and storage virtualization, and app virtualization. In cloud computing, we have many technologies where participate to make cloud computing success. It could be virtualization and networking and storage. These concepts will come under fundamentals of cloud. Without knowing virtualization, without knowing network, without knowing storage, we cannot work with cloud computing. This is the basic knowledge of virtualization. Let me summarize everything quickly what we understood here. So we understood what is virtual machine, what are all the advantages of virtual machine, and the types of virtualization, that is hosted and bare metal. And we also understand what are all the advantages of virtual machines, and we understood what methods of virtualization can be happen, like server virtualization, desktop virtualization, storage virtualization, network virtualization, application virtualization. And so enough. Thank you for watching this video.